Good evening, everyone. Just a quick thought, kind of an addendum to my last video. The media and Los Angeles and the state of California are lying to you when they say that they're mostly peaceful protests. That's a straight up lie. Yeah, I'm sure there are some peaceful protesting going on, but the majority of it is violent protest. How you conflate violent protests with peaceful protests, I'll never know. I don't know what's going on. It's ridiculous. But they're lying to you. The media's lying to you. These folks need to get it together. And they need to stop blaming people and take accountability for themselves. Okay? If you're here illegally, you're violating the law. And you, more than likely, will be deported even if you don't have a criminal record. It's going to happen. Okay? And you knew that when you crossed the border illegally. You knew you were taking a risk. You knew that you were taking the risk coming to America, to the United States, and crossing the border illegally. You knew that. Y'all can't be that stupid. No matter what country you come from, you can't be that stupid. So because you knew that you were crossing the border illegally, and because you knew that you were taking the risk, and because you knew that one day you might get deported, you knew this, because if you didn't, you're extremely naive. You knew. You thought you had it good because the last 4 years, the government didn't enforce its own laws and just allowed y'all to come in whenever, however you wanted to. But those days are over with. And we have an administration that's actually enforcing law that's been on the books for decades. And pretty soon, when all the criminal illegals get out of this country, you more than likely will be next. Now, there are some people who are for what they call the dreamers. People that have been here, since, they have a date. I don't remember the date, but, they've been here 10, 15, 20 years, whatever. Where do we draw the line? Where does illegal become legal? Where do we draw the line? So if they've been here a certain set amount of years, it's okay that they violated the law? That they won't be held accountable? That's not right. And this is why the birthright citizenship is being challenged, because this is how they get to stay. They violate the law to get in the country, then they have a child while they're here, and that child is automatically an American citizen. We're about the only country that does this. We probably need to change the policy. I'm just saying. We probably need to change the policy because it's been abused. And so, we're talking about these violent protests, and and especially the ones that are throwing rocks, onto the 101 against those policemen. Not only did they destroy cars, but they hurt officers. It's just ridiculous, and nobody is being held accountable for it. Nobody. I mean, I guess there's been some arrests, but nobody's being held accountable for what they're doing. Is California going to hold them accountable? Probably not. Is California going to put anybody in jail? Probably not. Even though they arrested some of the people that looted, they probably aren't going to go to jail. They're probably going to be out the next day. Nothing's going to be done. People aren't going to be held accountable for their crime. So what does that tell us, the regular, average Joe citizen in the United States, that these people can get away with stuff, but we can't? How is it that you're an illegal and you're asking for rights? You have no rights. You're here illegally. You have no rights. Let me say that again. You have no rights. You have no due process. There is no such thing as due process for people who are not United States citizens. There's no such thing. The Constitution does not account for the fact that you are an illegal, which means that you do not get the privileges of an American citizen, period. Nor should you. No other country does the crazy stuff we do. So you have to look at all this stuff. The people that are probably causing some of this violence are probably illegal themselves. Again, some of them are being paid by socialists and whatnot. We know it's happening. They're being paid. People handing out gas masks and all that. That's planning. Somebody is planning the violence. We know it happens all the time. It's not a shock or surprise. And then others are taking advantage of the situation, hence the looting and all this other stuff. They just take advantage of things. They don't have the guts to be able to actually have a discussion about policy. All they want to do is take advantage of the fact that they can go in there and steal a bunch of clothes and shoes. That's all they care about. They don't care about what ICE is doing. They don't care. They just care about looting and spray painting and destroying property. That's all they care about. They don't even care about the issue. That's the funny thing about this whole thing. Most of these folk that are protesting and having violence don't even care about the issue. They're just doing it for violence sake. And this is the problem. And then they have the gall to come out here with Mexican flags. Really? If you're an American citizen, it's probably time for you to go back to Mexico if you hate America that much. But if you're illegal and you're out there sporting Mexican flags, oh, by all means, you're finna go back, because that's where you really want to be. Most of them don't pay taxes. Most of them don't pay into Social Security. Most of them get paid under the table. I've seen it. I know it. Most of them ask for cash. So they're not contributing to the American economy. Most of them send their money back home to their family. So you benefit from our freedom and policies, or lack thereof. You take advantage of it, and then when we have an administration that actually wants to enforce laws that, again, have been on the books for decades, then you want to get mad. And then you want to show your quote-unquote Mexican pride. Well, that's all good, fine, and dandy. Be proud that you're from Mexico. Great. But you can go right on back if you don't like it here. And if you're illegal, you soon will be going back. You know, it's sad that it's had to come to this. But decades and decades of not doing anything, or very little. Because, again, President Obama has deported more people than President Trump has. Nobody wants to talk about that. Then go back to Mexico or whatever other country. There are other country flags flying, but the majority of them were Mexican flags. Go back to that country. Why did you come here in the first place? If you didn't want to become a citizen, a productive citizen. You came here because you were taking advantage of our system. That's why you came. The majority of them, not all of them. Asylum seekers, 1 out of 10 are actual real cases. That tells you all you need to know right there. That tells you all you need to know right there. So why did you come? You took advantage of a situation. You knew that the last 4 years the government was lax. They weren't enforcing laws, and they were allowing any and everybody to come in regardless. So you took advantage of it. You took advantage of the fact that you knew you could get paid more in the United States than you could in Mexico or whatever country you come from. and you took advantage of it. You took advantage of our lax laws, our lax enforcement. You took advantage of all that stuff. And all that is now over with. So don't cry and complain when you get deported. There is no sympathy or compassion for you. I don't care how long you've been here. You are here illegally. You're violating the law. Period. If you set a line or whatever, then you know what you do for one, you gotta do for everybody. So you might as well not even do it. You might as well not even try to compromise. They're here illegally. They violated the law. They knew they violated the law when they came. So now is the time for accountability. But see, people don't want to be accountable no more. They want to blame other people and do all these other things. But guess what? Even an illegal has to be accountable. And you're going to go right back to your country. Oops, I'm going to go off in this lane. You're going to go right back to your country. If you want to come back legally, by all means. That's what the legal process is for. Does the legal process need help? Does it need to be better? Yeah, it most certainly does. And hopefully that's the next step. We have to make it easy. Not only do we have to get people out of here, but we need to make it easier. When I mean easier, meaning the length of the process. The length of the process is way too long. I'm not saying make it easier to where it's just a simple process. No, people have to get background checks done. We need to make sure, they need to make sure they're not on the terror watch list, or FBI's most wanted, or have a criminal background. All that stuff still has to be done. But there are too many people here legally that waited all them years that are fuming because you're getting the same benefits, if not more benefits than they are. And in a lot of cities, they're getting more benefits than a person like me that was born here, raised here, lived over 5 decades. And they get more privileges than me. That ain't right. I pay taxes. I pay into Social Security. I pay into Medicare and Medicaid. It's tax dollars that are paying that stuff. I pay into all that stuff. I'm paying for them to get free medical care. I'm paying for them to get on food stamps. I'm paying that stuff. The violence needs to stop. We're praying for peace, obviously, because it needs to stop. People need to be held accountable for what they do. And all these violent protests, whether they're legal, illegal, or whatever, need to pay for what they've done. Period. They need to pay for what they've done. Attacking an officer, whether local, state, county, or federal, is against the law. Period. Period. I just think that people are putting out these narratives that aren't true. All you have to do is watch the videos. It's not like, it's secret. All you got to do is watch the videos. When I say watch the videos, you got to go online. The media is not going to show it to you. And if they do, they're going to be spinning it as, it's President Trump's fault, blah, 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 like the state of California and the city of Los Angeles are doing. Okay? You got to research it for yourself. Okay? All these folk protesting on the street with all these Mexican flags and all that stuff, they would not dare do that in their home countries. Why? Because they'd be put down in a heartbeat and have a whole lot less compassion than we do in the United States. Why don't they put that energy into fixing their own countries instead of trying to complain about ours? Why don't they put that energy into their own countries? I'm curious. Why don't they put that energy in their own country? Why aren't they protesting about what's going on in their country? especially Mexico, that's run by the cartels and everybody knows it. Why aren't you protesting over there? No, you want to protest over here, and you have no legal standing in some cases. And if you do have legal standing, why are you protesting somebody that's here illegally when you did it the right way? Or maybe you're legal and you're protesting the fact that some of your family members are here illegally. Well, guess what? They took the risk. You should have told them. You know, the argument's going to be, well, you don't have any compassion. No. Not for people who purposely came to this country illegally and they know they did. You'd have to be a literal, you'd have to be some type of a moron, stupid idiot not to know what you did was illegal. They know. They can't be that stupid. They can't. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They chose to take the risk. Okay. But be accountable for that. Know that one day you might not be here no more. Because one day you might get caught. One day you may get a speeding ticket and they check your background. One day you might miss a payment. Anything that would trigger the government to say, oh, wait a minute, this person is not here legally. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot going on in the background, more than just ICE agents grabbing up illegals. That's what they're supposed to do. That's their job. You don't have to like it. You don't have to like what the president did. You don't have to like none of it. That's fine. Don't take it out on the ICE agents. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And that is deporting people who are here illegally, regardless of what country they come from. People picking on the Mexicans because of them idiots pulling out in these protests with Mexican flags. How stupid can you be? There are real racists out there, because there are still some out there that will take that and run with it. Oh, it's the Mexicans' fault. They putting out their flags. They're the ones that are causing all this chaos. That's what they're going to do. Right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what they're going to do. That was dumb. That was dumb. Nothing wrong with having pride in the country you come from. I'm all for it. But if you're an American, keep that thing in your house, because we're all supposed to be Americans. If you don't like it here, go back. Please go back. If you're here illegally, self-deport yourself. Use the app. They made it real simple for you before you get carted off. And if them folk would have just self-deported themselves on the app, we wouldn't be having this problem. We wouldn't be having this problem. Again, you don't have to agree with the administration. I don't agree with everything he's doing. I wouldn't have sent in the Marines. Why? The National Guard is good enough. They got it down. National Guard is well trained in these type of situations, in crowd control and dealing with municipalities and the like. Well trained. But I'm not the president, so I don't think the National Guard needed any help. And if they did, you send in more National Guard. I wouldn't have sent in active troops. That's not their job. Okay, their job is outside the country, not inside the country. That's what the National Guard is for. Okay, the National Guard protects the homeland. I understand that. Obviously, in the end, the military is protecting the homeland in all areas. But what I'm saying is, actually working in the homeland, that's the National Guard's job. That's why they fall under the governors. Their main job is to protect the homeland. Active duty's main job is to fight the wars. and the reserves are there to support the active duty. The National Guard and auxiliaries, State Defense Forces, Civil Air Patrol, Coast Guard Auxiliary, fall in that same category, protect the homeland. These people got to stop. We're obviously praying for peace because that's the only way, the Lord is going to be able to stop all this. But we got to give it to the Lord so that he can stop it. And we have to be praying for peace, because ultimately that's what we want. We don't want this stuff happening in our cities. It looks horrible. It's embarrassing. Not that it doesn't happen in other countries. I'm just saying it's embarrassing. So we got to do better. People need to let ICE do their thing. President Trump was voted into office. You may not have voted for him, but he was voted into office to do just these things that they're doing. Shutting the border down, getting rid of illegals, and other things. You don't have to like it, but it's going to happen. Your candidate didn't get in office. So, yeah, you can complain about it, you can protest, sure enough. But when you start throwing rocks and spitting on folks and throwing Molotov cocktails and frozen water bottles and whatever you get your hands on, yeah, that's not going to fly. You deserve everything coming to you. You deserve everything that's coming to you. And all this is going to do is embolden the Department of Homeland Security to even double their efforts to do their job. Not that they weren't already doubling their efforts to do their job. That's all this is just giving them fuel. This is just fuel to the fire. This is fuel to the fire. That's all this is. Not that ICE and Homeland Security needed any fuel to the fire, but that's all this is doing. It's just motivating them to do it even the more. So, there are many instances of people doing stuff like this, in a lot of cases, you're doing right when people are fighting against you. And again, what they're doing is lawful. You may not like it, you may not think it's right, but it's lawful. And for y'all that are going to try to quote the Bible verse on me, no, it's not expedient, but it's not meant to be expedient. Well, and in a way it is expedient because they're getting them out of here quickly, but it's not meant to be expedient. It's meant to be shock and awe. It's done for a reason. To let everybody else know, hey, you need to go self-deport and get out of here before we publicly humiliate you and handcuff you and put you in a van, a truck, or whatever, and take you off to a cell. It's done on purpose. So I don't want to hear the compassion thing, because where was their compassion when they crossed over the border illegally, and then we, the taxpayers, are paying for all their stuff? Where's their compassion for the American taxpayer? Where's their compassion for doing the right thing? They have no compassion. They were here for selfish reasons. They were here for selfish reasons. They were here to get money to send back to their families. They're not even trying to put it in our economy. They're sending it back home. And all that's fine and dandy. But you're not contributing anything to this country. But yet you say you have rights? You have no rights. You're not a citizen. You have no due process. You're not a citizen. Somebody please read the Constitution, and then you would understand. You have no rights if you're here illegally because you're a criminal. It's just that simple. I don't care how you spin it. I don't care how you want to try to, do whatever. You're a criminal because you violated the law. When you violate the law, you are a criminal. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. Accountability is the real issue here. And nobody wants to be accountable. The mayor of LA don't want to be accountable. The governor of California don't want to be accountable. Nobody wants to be accountable. The Democrats don't want to be accountable. They're all hating this. They're all trying to, demand this, demand that. And they need to be careful. Because this administration has no qualms about arresting Congress people. And they shouldn't. If you violate the law, the Congress person is not above the law. How is it that the law it will punish me but not punish them for doing the same thing? No. Justice is blind, hence the statute that we see. Okay? If you're a congressperson and you are, violating the law by, telling illegals where not to go and where to go, or harboring, you're gonna get arrested and you're gonna be prosecuted, as well you should be, because nobody is above the law. You hear it all the time in the John Wick movies. Rules are there that separates us from the animals. If that ain't the truth. Because if we didn't have laws, it would be absolutely lawless. It would be absolute anarchy. Some people want that. It would be the purge every day. We don't want that. We live in civil societies. And civil societies are civil because there are laws. And then there are people that enforce those laws. That's what makes civil society civil. Civil society is not civil when we allow criminals, illegals in this country, and there are no consequences. That means society is no longer civil. So you're showing preference to people who don't even belong in this country, but then you want to put the hammer down on people who are actually born here or went through the legal process. You're a hypocrite. And you need to be held accountable for it. A lot of these Democrats, hypocrites, they need to be held accountable for it, and will be held accountable for it. You lost you lost the presidency in a landslide, and you lost both houses. There's a reason why you lost. But yet you all are doubling and tripling down on these crazy policies that the majority of the United States don't agree with. Really? I just don't get it. And I'm not saying I'm the smartest rock in the bunch, but I just don't get it. I don't get it. So that's my quote unquote amendment to my last video. And just, expounding on political violence. Talking about how, the media is like, oh, and all these leftists and Democrats are like, oh, it's mostly peaceful. No, it's not. That's a lie. All you got to do is get on YouTube and see it. Come on, people. It's not like it's hidden. I don't care if it was one incident. It was one incident too many. Protesting is one thing. Attacking people is a whole nother level. And I'm telling you now, don't mess with these National Guard folk, because they mean business. They're not there to play. They are not there to play. Just because these police departments are handcuffed and can't do their job and all this other stuff because the mayor and city councils won't let them do it, doesn't mean the National Guard falls in that. National Guard ain't got no qualms about doing what they have to do to make sure that the mission that they were sent for gets accomplished. I'm telling you that right now. I'm telling you that right now. For somebody who's had riot control training, I'm telling you right now, they ain't gonna play. Riot control training is very difficult because you're dealing with population. You're dealing with real people. Okay? It's not going out, it's not combat where you know what I'm saying, where you know for the most part you know the enemy. And there are, and yeah, there are, rules of combat, which is kind of an oxymoron, but you have rules. But for the most part, the enemy's there and you know what you got to do. Okay? They shoot at you, you shoot them back. And you're going to make sure that you get home and he don't. That's combat. You're going to make sure you get home. You're not trying to let that other guy get home. You're trying to make sure you get home to your family. That's just the way it is. And modern warfare has all these rules, when in reality, there is no rules in war. And we've tried to civilize war, and it just really doesn't work. But anyways, so these people need to be held accountable, and prayerfully they will be held accountable. We want peace. We want this thing over with. We want to let ICE do their job because what they're doing is lawful. Nobody can say it's not. You don't have to like it. That's your problem. There's nothing inhumane about what they're doing. That's a lie too. Nothing inhumane. They're here. They're criminals. They're here illegally. And so laws need to be enforced. It's just that simple. If you like this video, subscribe, hit that notification bell, give that thumbs up or down. You got any comments? As always, be respectful. I appreciate each and every one that's viewed my videos, liked my videos, left a comment on my videos. I'm very appreciative. But my subscribers, the few I do have, I'm appreciative. I thank you for allowing me to get on here and vent and just talk. I appreciate it. Again, these are my opinions and my experiences, and if you don't agree, that's cool. Just be respectful. That's all I'm saying. And that's all I got to say on that. So until the next time, God bless you.